When exactly is the circus leaving town? This is a question that people have, and I want to talk today about a film that came out in November of 1924 called The Circus is Leaving Town. If you like my stories, you're going to like my film reviews, so hold tight. So this film took place a long time ago, right? November 5th, 1924 is when the film first came out, and it became an instant classic, although a lot of people have forgotten about it because so much time has gone by. So the film is ostensibly about this singer. I think her name was Sweet Honey Holiday, and she was a really unique singer, a first kind of in a lifetime singer who combined rock ballads with blues and different genres. Now, the actress who played Sweet Honey also played a character called the Queen of Lotus in another film that came out around the same time. So when the film begins, everybody is really excited because there's going to be this big concert, and Sweet Honey is going to come to town and sing this song, and it's considered a really big deal because at this time, all of the musicians and singers of this period are all men. And there really hasn't been a prominent female singer yet, and so people are very excited about this, especially women. Now, there had been one other woman singer who had almost reached the same level of fame as Sweet Honey, but Clara Hillary, but they just weren't ready for her because, you know, these were just archaic times and people weren't used to women being on stages, and so she wasn't really allowed to become as well known, and she wasn't really allowed to sing on the stage of this size. So this is kind of the setup of the film. When you first start watching, you see all of these people who are really excited. They're having all of these like people's parades and parties celebrating the arrival of this concert singer, and everyone's really excited. But then, big plot twist, instead of her coming to town and performing on this stage, the circus comes to town. And you know, in the village where this concert was going to be held, there was a minority of people who didn't want this woman to sing on this stage. They were like, women can't sing, we don't want women, you know. And they were like, you know, really backwards. And so they're like, we want the circus, we're used to the circus, it's our tradition, we want the circus, we don't want this woman singer coming to town and singing all this crazy music. But you know, the people in the village where the concert hall was weren't really worried because they were such a small percentage of the population. They were like, oh yeah, there's always rabble-rousers, we're not worried about these rabble-rousers. But then on the day of the big concert, people came to see the big concert. They bought their tickets. So many tickets were sold. People could not believe it. Was record-setting number of tickets were sold for this concert. Nobody could believe it. It had never happened before, and it certainly had never happened for a female singer like Holiday. So people were very excited. The music was playing. Great film score, by the way. They really brought all the best musicians in for this film, so the soundtrack is amazing. I recommend you get it. So the film starts with this big plot twist, right? All of a sudden there was supposed to be a concert, instead there's a circus, people are all pandemonium, people are in shock and grief, and oh my God, what happened, you know, what's going on? And something really interesting happened at this time. It turned out that there were all of these crystal gazers who had set up their vending shops around the concert hall. And you know, crystal gazers, you know, back then, keep in mind this is an old film, back then they called them gypsies. And we now know that that's a derogatory term for the Roma. And the Roma are a people who are originally from India, but ended up traveling throughout Europe and different parts of Asia and became known also as the travelers. And the travelers, or the Roma, or what used to be called the gypsies, are people who are very good at reading crystals, looking into crystals and telling people about themselves. And these crystal gazers also were known for being able to predict things that hadn't happened yet. And so at this time in the 1920s, gypsies were popular. It was something that you see in a lot of films. And so, of course, I want to talk about them because I like to give spiritual reviews of film. And so this is a spiritual review of this old-timey film. So these crystal gazers they all started to give the same accounts of what was going to happen. And so when this big plot twist happened and the concert was canceled and the circus came to town, the Crystal Gazers were like, don't worry, the circus is leaving town. And that's where we get the title of the film. The whole film is about, like, when is the circus leaving town? And so these crystal gazers, who are predominantly women, and some people call them dream weavers, they end up all delivering the same messages. So this is where you get kind of this sinister element in the film, where it's like, how are all of these women getting the same exact information, looking at their different crystals, and then we start to have like this, kind of sinister music playing in the background. So in this circus that comes to town, some of the main characters are the clowns. And you know how clowns throughout film history have been portrayed in different ways, but oftentimes they're portrayed as a little bit scary, right? And so we have that whole kind of scary clown trope that we see in the old films. And so there's this group of clowns that are pretty scary, and the head clown wears one of those big orange, balls on his nose. And so the orange-nosed clown is the leader of all of the other clowns. And there's a bunch of different kind of main character clowns. Like there's a clown who wears like really dramatic eye makeup, and there's a clown who's from Louisiana, and there's like clowns from all over. And so that's what makes it interesting too, is that this kind of collection of clowns comes from all over the country, and they all come to this one circus to perform. And so as the film proceeds, I don't want to give it all away, but as the film proceeds, there's a lot of things that the clowns do that are, kind of scary. And so as a result of the different scary things that the clowns do, we start to have all of the people in the village are starting to then respond to the clowns. And there's all this conversation about the clowns, and there's like committees to discuss the clowns, and everyone's like, what do we do about this circus? When is the circus leaving town? And so there are a bunch of villagers who form parades, and then there's all of these like villagers parading around, asking that the circus leave town. But let's get to the spiritual part. I know you're probably like, why are you describing so much of the film when I get to the spiritual part? Okay, so the spiritual part of the film is all focused on the crystal gazers, right? Because these women are not organized into a group. They don't know each other. They're not part of some like sisterhood or whatever. They're not all from the same place. They don't even all speak the same language. Some of them are in other lands, distant lands. But what's interesting about these crystal gazers is that they're all getting the same information. And one of the things that the crystal gazers keep saying is that the circus is going to leave town. And they keep giving dates, like they're going to leave town next month. No, they're going to leave town the next month. Oh no, we can see that they're packing up. We're looking at our crystals, so we can see that they're packing up their bags and their luggage, and they're going to leave town, and the concert's going to come back, and the Sweet Honey holiday singer is going to actually sing, and everyone just hold on and just wait. And so there start to be all of these people who kind of gather around the crystal gazers, predominantly women, but not just women. All kinds of people start gathering around the crystal gazers, and they're really excited about them because they're giving them hope. Because when the circus came to town, it brought a lot of problems. There's a lot of pollution, like they leave a lot of junk laying around, and they started to just kind of create a lot of problems with the structure of the city, how the city is set up. And they also just, there starts to be like a pandemic of illness that happens because of some of the things that are going on in the circus. And there's a lot of noise. Anyway, there are a lot of people who are really unhappy about a lot of kind of the fallout of the circus. And so everyone is like, when is the circus leaving town? Oh, so I've already run out of time, and there's so much more to say about this film. And so I'm going to do a part 2 about when the circus is leaving town. We're going to get more into detail about the crystal gazers, and also the, the singer, and, other singers that show up in the film. So stay tuned. Please like and share if you want to see part 2 so I can show up on your FYP, because you want to know.